Okay. All right. Welcome back. This is part two. If you've made it through part one, thank you very much. As I said, at the very end of part one, I appreciate my neighbor providing assistance on this and giving me guidance. This is going to be talk more on issues relating to legal summaries that you need to pay attention to. Just basically accessible in technology under Americans with Disabilities Act and Section 504 that all school districts need to pay attention to. Quick, I want everyone to read this disclaimer. I've worked as a hearing officer in the Commonwealth. I work with a lot of school districts on issues relating to legal issues. And I just make sure that these are my opinions. These are not Batan's opinions. And any cases and descriptions that I do talk about are for informational purposes only. And I'm only presenting like small portions of the cases, but to make a point about where we are going with this so that you can have clarity and understanding about what some of the obligations that you need to pay attention to, okay? So first thing, I wanna make sure you understand this, okay? Come on, go forward, it's not going forward. Okay, website accessibility. I wanna make sure that we understand this, okay? And the Office of Civil Rights has been investigating repeated examples of website accessibility complaints. And this is going on. I want to make sure that you understand this. And there's been a number of these, and we'll get to some tips for you in a minute on this. But one thing I want to make sure that you understand is that every single one of these they take seriously, as should you. As should you. And I hope through the justification video that we did, that was part one of this, that we clarified the importance of accessibility for all individuals. It's not just for the main population. You have no idea all the different individuals who are viewing your websites. And you need to really treat each and every one of these individuals with respect so that they can provide opportunities and access the information that is necessary in order for them to determine the educational services or educational programming for their child, or for whether they want to live in your district, a variety of things like this. But so each and every one of these needs to be taken seriously, and just website accessibility is something that should be baked into everything that you're doing. We've given some guidance on this. We'll extend this a little further, but I want to build on this. This is something we want to address. In all the OCR complaints, OCR accepted the resolution agreements from districts, which is typically required, but you have to think about when they did this. What they did is they focused on three very specific things. Assurances of non-discrimination. You are no longer going to discriminate against individuals with disabilities. They gave clear guidance and suggestions and remedies relating to benchmarks for measuring accessibility and whether that's something important. But then had some remedies and how to report about these remedies. So one thing that I want to pay attention to as a part of this is making sure that we learn from these and pay attention to these. The Office of Civil Rights does not just randomly hit you. They don't randomly come to your district. It's typically based on a complaint. And one of the things we hopefully highlighted in the first part of the video is that there maybe parents haven't made a complaint because they just get frustrated, or individuals get frustrated with what's going on and they don't go there. But there are individuals who are making complaints, but we shouldn't rely on complaints to help dictate about services and where we should go about this, okay? But here's the important point. Here's the important point. You learn nothing else today. If you learn nothing else today, in fact, after this, you could like go to sleep for a while. But if you learn nothing else today, what I want you to pay attention to, if your school district is not reviewed for its website for compliance with accessibility requirements, just wait. Just wait, because there are individuals out there who are looking at websites. And we have a lot of school district websites in Pennsylvania because we have a lot of school districts. And what we have to think about this, it's something that may be coming to your doorstep and something for you to pay attention to and something for you to fully be aware of and address as a part of this. Am I trying to scare you? In part, yes. But I'm also just trying to make sure that you're aware of the reality that it exists. The reality that exists, that you need to make sure that the information that you're providing to all members of your district and individuals who will be accessing your website, that could be a lot of different people. Think about how wide that Venn diagram is the supports necessary so that they can access and pay attention to this. So pay attention to all the things we're talking about as a part of this, and pay attention. And I applaud Batan for leading the efforts in this. and taking this very seriously. Because too often we don't pay attention to these things, and we need to address these. Okay, more. Okay, so here are some likely outcomes for noncompliance. Right. So, so this is just these are some things that you could potentially see and pay attention to. And what we look for is what are called voluntary agreements. Voluntary agreements that when we talk about this, because when OCR comes in and has a complaint about what's going on in your district, you can discuss it with them, but it's pretty much that they're not there because they're trying to be happy with you. They're there because there's been a complaint. And what they want to do is wrestle and deal with the complaint so that you have an understanding of how to move forward so that everyone can be provided appropriate interactions and appropriate assistance as a part of this. Okay. So one thing that you would often see as a part of this, okay, is notice on your, then after someone OCR comes in, notice on your district's website that explains the obligations of Section 504 and ADA, including a link to report any issues. So you would actually link on your website directly to the Office of Civil Rights or to others to how actually you could complain and pay attention to this. It's a way to report things like this. Those who've been involved in special ed, we have a similar kind of thing. We've been providing for years to parents copies of the procedural safeguards notice. And there's all sorts of information in the procedural safeguards notice about how parents can effectively complain or file a due process hearing, state complaints, those kinds of things. There's a lot of information there. This is nothing new. This is nothing new, but this is often a likely result of noncompliance. Is be directly on our website. They just click it and boom, it goes. Okay. Second thing that we often need to pay attention to is changes to district policies and procedures that include a citation to Section 504 of the VRA or WCAC 2.0 level AA. And those are important things. And those are important characteristics we need to pay attention to also, because we're going to see districts who need to understand that they have complied with the rules and they've had web access availability issues to address this. Okay. Continue on this. Keep on. There's more. Don't worry. Don't go away. Ongoing website audits, either internally or externally. You've designated someone as a part of your staff to continually monitor internally all the different websites that you have. We're not just talking about the forward-facing website that your district has. We're talking about the individual school websites. We're even talking about the information that teachers put on their websites. It's got to be available. So you need to provide training and provide guidance and supports as a part of this. Okay. Then a corrective action plan. What are the steps that you are going to take? And how are you going to deal this? One that is not only real, but one is ongoing and regular. So you have to pay attention to this and pay attention to where we're going this and pay attention to what's going on as a part of this. Okay. And then go on to this is you're going to provide staff training, not just a half hour in August. You're going to be providing regular ongoing staff training. And I mean this. Is it because many of us do these staff training things in August, and then we drop it and forget about it. That's important. And I say this because I applied. My daughter is a teacher of kids with significant needs relating to autism, and they are providing staff training every single week on de-escalation tactics. And a half hour or 45 minutes every single week about this. She's become a master at de-escalation tactics. And too often and I applaud her school for doing this, but too often what we do is we just do one dump of information in August with no follow-up. And so we have to think about what can we do to be of assistance to provide this, but regular staff training is part of this, okay? So points to consider. There's some really important points to consider. I'm going to walk you through this and give you some sense of what we need to pay attention to as a part of this. There's five very different points we have to think about this. I'll address each one of these in turn. But what you have to think about, and I applaud you if you've made it this far, because it's not something that we taught you. You probably didn't think about this when you were becoming an administrator. This is something you had to pay attention to. But we want to ensure that we're providing access for all individuals and making sure that they have full unfettered opportunity to participate in their school, participate with their kids, participate in your district. It's how your district manifests itself that is important. Okay. So effective communication requirements. Okay. You need to make sure, and I'll walk you through these. Okay. Walk through this. Okay. The districts must ensure that individuals with disabilities receive communication that is as effective as communication with non-disabled individuals. Okay. You must furnish appropriate auxiliary aids and services when necessary to afford the opportunities for individuals with disabilities an equal opportunity to participate and enjoy the benefits This is what's important. And you need to make sure that they enjoy the benefits of your district as part of this. Okay. So make sure they do this. Second thing, okay, and that is broad, but we'll get to more specific things on this. Your district must take appropriate steps to ensure that the communication with applicants, participants, and communities are as effective as communication with others. So it doesn't have to be necessarily exactly the same, but is as effective as others. And that's what we often think about this. We often confuse this, is it has the essential function of of all forms of communication so that individuals are allowed to participate. Okay. Right. And this stuff. So the third point, I'm just kind of building on this, just basically pounding this one down. School districts must provide equally effective communication regardless of the medium that is chosen for communication. So some of you are sending text alerts in the mornings on snow days. Some of you are sending text alerts on all sorts of things. Communication includes a transfer. Make sure we understand this. I'm going to give you a definition. I'm going to read a definition to you that probably we often think. I'm not doing this to talk down to you. I'm doing this to ground us as a part of this. Communication. This communication includes the transfer of information and encompasses information conveyed through computer-related applications and online environments. That's pretty broad. All information is a part of this. I mean, there are different. I know communication. This is through technology communication. I've negated the whole communication of face-to-face issues. But it's interesting about this. We have to think about this. Is your website, your special education page, all your preschool pages, all your engagements pages with the families. All these need to be accessible and provide effective communication to students and adults with disabilities. Okay. Now, one other thing. Okay. Delivering all information in one format does not do it. All right. You need to think of multiple formats and multiple ways of doing this. What we need to think about is what can we do to ensure that individuals have the opportunity to participate. Okay. So this is important. This is important as part of the process, and this is something that we need to pay attention to. Just play this out. Just play this out. Suppose you have a number of individuals in your district who have vision impairments, right? So you're going to do all this information provided to them through other auditory channels that allow them to participate. That's great. I applaud that. But that doesn't provide support for individuals with hearing impairments or individuals with mobility issues who have trouble navigating the maps. There's a variety of things we need to address as a part of this, okay? Wait, there's more, okay? Emerging technologies. Think about this. Think about how technology has changed dramatically just in the past few years, Your ability to communicate with the world, your ability to do things, some of it from the palm of your hand, has changed markedly. And so what we have to think about this is all emerging technologies, okay, is ensure equal access to educational benefits and opportunities. Now, many of you who have iPhones or Androids, a lot of that stuff is there are some things that are baked into as accessibility features as a part of this. If you don't believe me, just use the Google and ask visual impairment accommodations on the iPhone. There are wonderful videos, and there's a lot of opportunities for individuals to participate in that. So there are some things that we make sure that the technology participates and it allows individuals to enjoy the same service and meet the standards of the other information that is being provided. So as you use new technologies, ask, how does this work for people with disabilities? Just ask these things, because the market for selling things to schools is huge. There are a lot of vendors out there who are making products, making technologies, making services for individuals who work in schools. You need to continually ask, has this been tried with people with disabilities, and what is the opportunity for them to participate, and what do we have as a part of this? It's incredibly important. It's got to be baked into every single thing that you do as a part of this. Don't just assume that they've done it. Ask these questions directly. So keep this in mind as a part of this, okay? Wait, more, okay? Communication, okay? I highlighted this one, you can see, big communication. That's what we're striving for. That's absolutely what we're striving for. So IDEA the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act and Section 504 should not be impeded when you have virtual instruction or online education. Now, there's a lot of, we had to learn, we had to turn on a dime. Can you turn on a nickel? We had to turn on a dime when schools closed in March of 2020, right? And what we had to think about this is some of us are still using some online education for some of these kids who have other issues or are still having results of COVID, or just a variety of things that are rearing their heads in schools. And what we have to think about this is ensuring that we have provided opportunities for them to educate, okay? The provision of FAPE is an important one. Many of you probably think of me as someone who goes around and talks about the fact that we need to ensure FAPE is something that's provided. Sending kids home, sending kids on virtual instruction and ensuring this is something that is something we need to pay attention to, because many of these kids are not received an appropriate education as a part of this. And what we have to think about is making sure that we can focus on this, okay? The agency there may be different ways of conveying information. There are different ways of doing this, okay? But is it virtually, online, or telephonically? Whatever we're providing to kids, we and their parents, we need to ensure that communication is it. This is the essence of what we're asking for. This is the essence, okay? And so when we talk about providing services, when there's issues, I sincerely hope that the knowledge that we gained as a part of implementing services for kids during COVID is, for lack of a better term, one-time knowledge. But we've benefited from this. Think about this. Parents are more likely to participate in an IEP or school team meetings now through Zoom than they were before that. Many of us didn't even know what the term Zoom meant. But many of these parents are now participating in ways that they did not participate before, because they don't have to take time from their family. They don't have to take time from their house. They don't have to leave, find parking spots, come into schools and do things. Now they can participate. We need to ensure that the participation that they have allows for appropriate communication as this. And that's something that we need to strive for as a part of this, okay? So I'm going to switch now to more on website accessibility, things like this, right? According to the Office of Civil Rights, this is not me, this is Office of Civil Rights, I'm just the messenger here. The obligation to provide accessible website applies to all content created by districts and its schools. And this is whether it's external or internal. This is important. So if your district links to something that is a part of a website, you link to something, you're basically linking to something, you need to ensure that that is also accessible to individuals with disabilities and accessible so that they can participate and be part of where we are with this. This is important because too often we just click on links and say, hey, here's another YouTube video, here's something like this. Make sure it's accessible, okay? Also, website accessibility also applies to web-based instructional materials and online learning programs. We're pushing a lot of online learning programs on this, and this is something that we need to make sure that is also part of the process, and ensuring that students are having an opportunity to participate in this information and ensuring that they are understanding and paying attention to this. What do we want to make sure that they get? We want to make sure that they get effective communication that is the same information that is provided to others. It doesn't have to be the same format, but it's the same information. And we have to do this in ways that allow them to participate, okay? But as I said before, and I just want to highlight this again, is teachers, school districts may engage in discrimination by linking to inaccessible instructional material, inaccessible websites, or a variety of things. This is important that we need to pay attention to this. And that's something we need to address and we need to understand as we talk about these issues, okay? So there's a variety of cases relating to that one that I want to pay attention to, okay? Web accessibility. Okay. So there's different standards. There's different standards that I want you to pay attention to. And so there's the W3C's web content accessibility information, okay? Because there's not, I want to make sure you understand, there is not one website accessibility. You pass this, boom, you got it, okay? There are different things that you need to pay attention to. There are different things that you need to address as a part of this, because federal law doesn't require a school district to follow any particular accessibility standards, all right? They leave it up to the school district to do this. They leave it up to you because Yeah, there are some disabilities that you and I, if we were to lock ourselves in a room for a long time, we would not come up with a complete list of all the different disabilities out there. So it has to be individual to the needs of the individuals in your district and individual to the needs of the person who has a disability, and address these things like this. Okay. So what we have is, when I talk about this, when I've looked at OCR complaints on this, and there's quite a few of them, districts' voluntary resolution agreements typically require districts to develop a web accessibility content that allows districts will use to determine whether online content is accessible. So the Web 3C's web content checker is a great way to start. That is a wonderful way to start. You use the Google, you can get there. It is wonderful access, and that's something I want to pay attention to. Right? The other thing is these website accessibility standards. Many of you have probably heard or even seen me talk about Section 504 of the Rehab Act of 1973. If you want to kill a couple hours, I can talk about it. What's interesting about this is we also need to think about Section 508 of the Rehab Act of 1973. Some of you don't remember 1973. Do not just know. That upsets me. Okay, but what Section 508 of the Rehab Act, which applies to federal agencies and their contractors and individuals who receive federal funds, which, hold on, that's you, okay? Requires all electronic and information technologies developed, procured, maintained, or used by the federal government be accessible to people with disabilities, okay? So these guidelines, so Section 508 accessibility, needs to be something that is baked into what we talk about as this, because that's what the Office of Civil Rights is in fact looking at, is the issues that you're providing and the content that you're providing, whether it is accessible and whether it's something that we can really move forward on this, okay? So keep this in mind, okay? There's also the Accessible Rich Internet Application Site. And I love acronyms. I'm in special ed for a reason, and part is because we have so many acronyms. But I love acronyms, and one thing we have to take about is the fact that the Accessible Rich Internet Applications Web Accessibility Initiative, I'm going to get this right, Web Accessibility Initiative, Accessible Rich Internet Applications Suite. Yes, I got it, right? Or another standard or combination of standards that will help render online content accessible. Use these. Use these. I mean this. Use these so that you have better sense of where we are with this. This helps because think about this, is you want to be able to demonstrate to the public, to others, that you can provide communication. If there is an OCR complaint, you need go back to the first part of these slides that we talked about, is that you're going to have to change what you're doing. You're going to have to change what you're doing. Here, start doing this now. Start doing this now. Save yourself time, save yourself hassle, save yourself a burden. Start working on these things now. The information on this page is invaluable for the future of your web accessibility. And yes, I was hyperbolic earlier when I said that if you learn nothing else, learn this thing. Learn these things, okay? But make sure that it's more easily, districts may be able to detect website accessibility errors more easily by using an automated website accessibility checker. And there's a number of these, okay? But it's just a work to ensure compliance, okay? So one thing that we talk about is we often ensure that, yes, check these things, use these regularly. And make sure that you provide regular content and regular information for your districts as a part of this, because it's important that they have a good understanding of not only this, but they have an understanding of where we're going, so that we can make sure that all individuals have received appropriate communication, okay? And so what I want to emphasize, okay, is what to learn, okay? Work with your IT staff. Truly work with your IT staff. These are individuals who like these things and pay attention to this. But make sure it's a part of an ongoing interdepartmental conversation regarding website online accessibility. It's part of what you're doing. It's part of what we're paying attention to, okay? Use the free, I can't do much better than it. Free online checklist as a guidepost. Use those so that you understand exactly where we're going with this and how to pay attention to where we're at this, okay? And then last here on this, things like this, there's more. This is not last. use the WebCAG 2.0 AA to determine issues for users of assistive technology, just to help move forward on this, okay? But pay attention to this as we talk about this. Use your IT staff, okay? So there's more to learn. There's always more to learn. I thought I knew everything when I was 18. Access the capacity to provide ongoing auditing internally and or externally. And I mean this. Make sure that you regularly internally audit what you're doing. You pay attention to what's going on. You pay attention to the needs. You pay attention to the supports. You pay attention to whether it's accessible, and you build on it. You build on this, and then you move forward. Okay. You build on it, and you try to ensure that what's going on for the individuals is something that can help and be part of this. Okay. But I want to make sure that you understand that it's better to pay up front than to pay later. Because the transaction costs for non-compliance, there's a legal cost. You have to have your attorneys involved, the amount of administrative staff time, but also OCR complaints are public. The reputational harm, you be known as the district that discriminates. Yeah, I'm not sure if you want that. I mean, yeah, your real estate agents. Yeah, this is the district that discriminates. We'll go to a different district. Think about this. So keep this in mind as we talk about these things and pay attention. But last, make sure your district utilizes an automated website accessibility checker. And this is something that is baked into all websites, provided to your staff, provided for guidance, provided for supports, and provided for individuals to talk about this. This is important. This is important because what it does is it provides appropriate information for what we can do as a part of this and ensures what we're doing is helpful. And that's what we have to pay attention to. And finally, wait, there's more, okay? Well, as I said earlier, if you haven't had a visit from OCR about your website compatibility, you don't hold, I mean, just, they might be coming. Just beware, as I mean this, beware a false sense of security, okay? So what do you have to think about this? OCR investigations have uncovered compliance issues with districts who rely solely on website accessibility checkers. So if you rely solely on a website accessibility checker, then you may not be providing what's going on. So that's why you need to go back to this page on web accessibility and pay attention to the different ways of doing it, okay? But just keep in mind that just saying that we have one website accessibility way of checking this thing is going to solve and cure and fix all of our problems. I truly wish that was the case. I truly wish that the case. Because there are so many different forms of websites. There's so much kind of information out there. You have to think about multiple ways of accessing this, okay? So if you've made it this far, first, I applaud you. But second, you need to make sure that your IT staff is well aware of what's going on. You also need to make sure that your staff is not linking to websites that are not accessible. And you have to ensure that parents, that any complaint, any issue is taken seriously. Our job is to ensure parents have full unfettered access and communication with the staff in the school district. We don't want to do anything that harms the relationships between parents and schools. Parents play a vital role in the process. You're providing web accessibility and making sure that parents can fully participate in what's going on will allow parents to participate, children to have a better education, and not have complaints. So keep these things in mind as we talk about this, all right? So go off and do good deeds, okay? All right.